The air was thick with the scent of roasted coffee and the hum of conversation in the bustling downtown cafe where I sat, tucked into a corner booth by a floor-to-ceiling window. At 34, I'd learned to cherish these moments of solitude, where the world moved around me and I could simply observe. My notebook lay open on the table, a half-finished poem scrawled across the page. I wasn't here to draw attention. I was here to exist, quietly, in a space that felt like mine. That's when she appeared. Isabel Voss, a self-proclaimed lifestyle curator with a modest but growing online following. Her brand was all about effortless elegance, which in practice meant artfully staged photos in chic settings, her glossy auburn hair cascading over tailored linen blouses. She wasn't a household name, but her 60,000 followers treated her like one. Today, she swept into the cafe with her entourage, a lanky guy named Owen, who doubled as her videographer, and a woman named Clara, who seemed to exist solely to adjust Isabel's poses. I barely noticed them at first. My pen was gliding across the page, chasing a fleeting thought. But then, Isabel's voice cut through the cafe's ambient noise like a blade. "Excuse me, could you, move? You're in my frame." I looked up, startled. She wasn't looking at me. Her eyes were fixed on Owen, who was angling his phone to capture her leaning against the window beside my booth. Her manicured hand gestured vaguely in my direction, as if I were an inconvenient piece of furniture. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice soft but clear. She sighed, a theatrical exhale that seemed practiced for her audience. "You're in my shot. It's ruining the aesthetic. Can you just move?" I glanced around. The cafe was packed, but there were plenty of other spots she could use. Empty tables, a cozy nook by the barista counter, even the outdoor patio. My booth, however, was the only one bathed in the soft, natural light streaming through the window, perfect for her curated, candid moment. I set my pen down, offering a polite smile. "No, I'm not moving. I was here first. This is a public space." Isabel's face twitched, her carefully crafted expression of serene charm faltering. "What do you mean, no?" she asked, as if the word itself were an affront. "I mean, I'm comfortable here," I said evenly. "You're welcome to find another spot," Owen piped up, his tone dripping with condescension. "She's working. It's just for a quick video. Be reasonable." "I'm enjoying my time here," I replied, my voice steady. "My presence isn't up for debate. That should have been the end of it, a minor annoyance in an otherwise pleasant afternoon. But then I saw him. Marcus, my boyfriend of 3 years, striding toward us from the cafe's entrance. His gym bag was slung over his shoulder, his dark hair slightly damp from a post-workout shower. He was supposed to be at the fitness center across town. He'd left our apartment an hour ago, promising to be back for dinner, leaving his water bottle on the kitchen counter I'd just cleaned. "Elena, what's going on?" Marcus asked, his voice tight with irritation. He glanced at Isabel, then back at me, his eyes avoiding mine. Isabel's demeanor shifted instantly. Her face crumpled into a mask of distress, her voice trembling as she clutched her phone like a shield. "Marcus, thank goodness. This woman's being so hostile. I just asked her to move for a second so I could film, and she's making it impossible." The words hit me like a slap. "Hostile?" I was sitting here, my notebook open, my coffee cooling. I hadn't even made eye contact with her until she spoke to me. I looked at Marcus, waiting for him to see through her act, to stand by me. Instead, he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Come on, Elena, it's not a big deal. Just move for a minute." The betrayal was so sharp it stole my breath. Marcus, the man who'd called my quiet strength unshakable, was standing in front of Isabel's entourage, publicly siding with a stranger who was lying about me. My cheeks burned, but my voice, when I spoke, was calm, almost eerily so. "The big deal, Marcus, is that I was asked to leave my seat because my existence is apparently ruining her video. The big deal is that she's lying about me, and you're backing her up." "Elena, don't make this a thing," he said, his tone softening into that familiar placating cadence he used when he wanted me to back down. "It's just a quick shoot." Something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a quiet, final snap. The part of me that had tolerated Marcus's thoughtlessness, that had excused his tendency to prioritize convenience over loyalty, went silent. I reached for my phone, my hands steady despite the storm in my chest. I opened the social media app, tapped the live stream button, and typed a title: "Watching a self-entitled influencer bully strangers." I propped my phone against my coffee mug, ensuring Isabel, her crew, and Marcus were in the frame. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I sat there, my expression neutral, and let the camera capture the scene. At first, only a few people tuned in. Friends, maybe a couple of strangers. Then the numbers began to climb. 10, 20, 50. Isabel, mid-whisper to Marcus, noticed the red live icon on my screen. Her eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "Creating content," I said, my voice as calm as a still lake. "Just like you." Owen shoved his phone in front of Isabel, likely showing her the growing comments section. My viewer count hit 100, then 150. The comments were sharp and unforgiving. "Who is this chick? The woman in the booth hasn't even raised her voice. Is she seriously calling her hostile for sitting there? Wait, is that her boyfriend taking the influencer's side?" "Oof." Marcus glanced at my phone, his face draining of color. "Turn it off, Elena, now." "No," I said, that simple, powerful word rolling off my tongue with ease. Isabel's composure shattered. She grabbed her bag, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "This is ridiculous. You're unhinged." She and her crew stormed out of the cafe, leaving a trail of stunned customers in their wake. Marcus stood frozen, caught between the woman he'd just betrayed and the influencer he'd tried to appease. His mouth opened, then closed, as if he couldn't find the words to undo the damage. I knew in that moment that this was only the beginning. I ended the live stream, which had peaked at 350 viewers, and saved the 45-minute video to my phone. My mind was already turning, piecing together a plan, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Marcus had left his water bottle on my clean counter. He had chosen a stranger over me. These weren't isolated incidents. They were signs of a deeper fracture, and I was done ignoring them. The silence in our apartment that night was a heavy, living thing. It settled into the corners, thick and oppressive. Marcus came home late, his gym bag slung over his shoulder, his face a mix of defensiveness and guilt. He tried to talk, falling back on his usual script. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Elena. I was just trying to keep the peace. Why did you have to escalate it?" I didn't respond. I didn't argue or cry. I just looked at him, letting his words hang in the air until they withered. Around 9 p.m., a friend sent me a link to a forum post. Someone had recorded my live stream and shared it online. By 10 p.m., it had gone viral. Isabel had locked her account, but not before her follower count plummeted by thousands. The internet didn't forget, and it had the evidence. My phone buzzed with notifications. Texts from Marcus, pleading for me to talk this out. Messages from Isabel, venomous and unhinged. "You're a psychopath. You've ruined my career. I'm going to sue you for defamation." I didn't reply to either of them. Instead, I sent Isabel a single message. "I have the full, unedited 45-minute video of our interaction. Please have your lawyer contact me if you wish to pursue legal action." She didn't respond. Marcus reached for my arm as I passed him in the kitchen. I stepped back, out of reach. "We need to talk," he said, his voice strained. "Fine," I replied. I went to the dining table, pulled out a legal pad, and began writing. My hand was steady, but my mind was grasping for something solid amidst the emotional chaos. At the top of the page, I wrote, "Shared financial obligations." "The $3,200 security deposit for this apartment," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "That came from my savings." "Your name isn't on the lease." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "What's this about?" I continued writing. "Utilities, electric, water, internet, all in my name, paid from my account. The dining table we bought last year, which I paid for up front. The streaming subscriptions you use." I tore the page from the pad and slid it across the table. "This is what we need to discuss. The practicalities." He stared at the list, his expression uncomprehending. Are you breaking up with me?" For a moment, I faltered. The vulnerability in his voice tugged at the part of me that had loved him, that had built a life with him. I saw us in a memory, a weekend trip to the mountains, his arm around me as we watched the sunset. The pain was sharp, a knife twisting in my chest, but then I remembered his face in the cafe, the ease with which he'd dismissed me. "I'm not sure there's an us left to break," I said, my voice steady again. "You made your priorities clear today. Now I'm making mine. We need a plan for you to move out." He slept on the couch that night. Before bed, I logged him out of my streaming accounts and changed the Wi-Fi password. I also sent an email to our property management company, inquiring about the process for removing a non-tenant from the lease. The automated reply promised a response within 3 to 5 business days. The waiting began. The next 2 days were suffocating. Marcus moved through the apartment like a ghost, his eyes alternating between resentment and fear. I spent the time combing through bank statements, documenting every expense I'd covered during our relationship. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about untangling myself from a life that no longer fit. When the property manager, Ms. Callahan, finally replied, her email was formal and impersonal. It outlined the lease amendment process, which required mutual agreement or a 60-day notice period before the lease term ended. Marcus saw it as a victory. "You can't just kick me out, Elena. We'll figure this out." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded him a second email I'd sent to Ms. Callahan, one he hadn't seen. In it, I'd expressed concern about an unauthorized guest, Isabel, having access to our building, attaching screenshots from her public social media posts showing her and her crew in our apartment while I was at work. Ms. Callahan's follow-up was swift and addressed only to Marcus, a formal warning about violating the guest policy and creating a disturbance. The crack in Marcus's confidence was visible. He didn't mention it, but I saw it in the way his shoulders slumped, the way he avoided my gaze. The grief hit hardest at night. One evening, my phone surfaced a photo from 2 years ago, Marcus and me at a street festival laughing as we shared a pretzel. The ache in my chest was unbearable, a hollow reminder of what I'd thought we had. I wanted to give in, to tell him we could try again. But then I heard his voice in the cafe. "It's not a big deal." And I knew I couldn't go back. The biggest shared asset was the motorcycle. It was in Marcus's name, but I'd paid half the monthly installments for 2 years, an informal agreement we'd never written down. "I'm moving out this weekend," he told me one night, a hint of his old arrogance creeping back. "I'm taking the bike, so you'll need to sort out your own transport." I nodded. Okay. The next morning, I filed a claim in small claims court for $5,800, the total of my contributions to the motorcycle. The filing fee was $70, and the online form was straightforward. I attached PDFs of every bank transfer, each labeled motorcycle payment, along with text messages from Marcus acknowledging my contributions. He'd be served the papers within days. When I came home that evening, the court notice was on the counter. Marcus was slouched on the couch, my couch, staring at it. "You're suing me?" he whispered, his voice raw with shock. "You're actually suing me?" "I'm reclaiming my share of a joint investment," I said, setting my bag down. "My name isn't on the title. This is the legal option available." His anger erupted. "Investment? It was a favor. We were together. I covered groceries sometimes. You helped with the bike. That's how relationships work. You can't just call it a loan now." I'd anticipated this. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if a judge saw it his way? But I pushed it aside. I opened my phone and pulled up a folder of screenshots. "On August 10th last year, you texted, 'Can you send $250 for the bike payment? It's due tomorrow.' On December 3rd, you wrote, 'Tight on cash. Can you cover the bike this month?' I have dozens of these, texts, emails, all showing my payments were for a shared asset, not a favor." I held out the phone. Marcus wouldn't look at it. He knew what he'd written. He'd never expected those casual messages to become evidence. His face went pale, the defiance replaced by a cornered, desperate look. "You kept all that?" "Who does that?" "I didn't keep it to hurt you," I said, my voice catching slightly. "It was just our life. You're the one who made it a legal issue." He sank back into the couch, the fight gone out of him. He realized I wasn't attacking him. I was simply presenting the truth, and the truth was unassailable. 3 months later. The silence in my apartment is different. It's no longer a heavy, oppressive force. It's the gentle quiet of a space that's truly mine. The new throw blanket on my armchair is soft and vibrant. The counter is free of stray water bottles, and the air smells faintly of lemon from the candle I lit. The end wasn't a single cinematic showdown. It was a slow, inevitable unraveling, for Marcus settled the motorcycle claim before the court date, taking out a loan to pay me the $5,800. The day the money landed in my account, I had the locks changed. I kept Marcus's name on the lease until it was time to renew, then signed a new one alone. Ms. Callahan gave me a subtle, approving smile when I dropped off the paperwork. Isabel's collapse was slower, but no less complete. Her attempts to spin the cafe incident as online harassment fell flat. Other content creators pounced, dissecting her behavior in reaction videos and exposés. Her brand, built on a fragile illusion of authenticity, couldn't withstand the scrutiny. The final blow came during an interview on a local lifestyle podcast. The host, a woman with a knack for uncovering contradictions, played a clip of Isabel's lie about my hostility. Isabel's stammered defense crumbled under the weight of the evidence, and her account was deactivated soon after. Marcus and Isabel are still together, or so I heard. A coworker spotted them at a dive bar last month, bickering over a tab. They're convinced I'm the orchestrator of their downfall, a vengeful mastermind who engineered their ruin. They don't see that I didn't need to orchestrate anything. I simply held up a mirror, and they shattered it because they couldn't bear their own reflection. There's no rush of triumph, no sense of conquest. There's just calm. The justice I found wasn't about punishing them. It was about reclaiming my space, my stability, my self-respect. Last night, I sat in my favorite cafe booth, my notebook open, the city's pulse thrumming outside the window. The light was golden, soft, perfect. A young family passing by asked if I could snap their photo. I smiled and said, "Of course." I took the picture, handed back their phone, and watched them continue on, grateful for the small human connection. It was ordinary. It was everything.